Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering views from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good morning to you. It is Tuesday, September 20th, 2016. This is Community Conversation. Shade of Wonder is in the studio with you, along with my co-host, Quabila Harden, and in the studio with us today, we have Mr. Kade Holliday, who is the Craighead County Clerk, and today we are going to talk about the Arkansas ballot initiatives that are on the ballot. And we have Mr. Holliday. If you can see on our live stream, you'll see that he brought us this big, thick book. But we're going to decipher this book and break down all of the issues on the ballot, educate you on the issues on the ballot, so that you can be an informed voter. Of course, we do not endorse no sports or either of these initiatives. We're just going to tell you about them, and then you can make up your mind on how you want to vote on each one of these ballot initiatives. Also talk about polling information, where you can actually go to cast your ballot on election day, and we'll take your calls and just talk all things about election day itself. So how you doing today, Mr. Holliday?
Thanks for having me on.
Alrighty, thank you so much for coming. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Kade. He brought us some goodies today, so thank you.
He brought us books.
No problem. It's real short on the ballot, all 7 of the issues, but this is the University of Arkansas Public Policy Initiative actually puts out a plain English guide of all these issues, and this year it was 52 pages long. So here we are. We're going to try to go through that in a short amount of time. So
the website isn't on the booklet. Can people go to that?
Yes, they can.
And look it up themselves?
Mm-hmm. They can go to www.uaex.edu/ballot, BALLOT, and it will have all the issues that'll be on every single ballot in the state of Arkansas. Everybody will have the same 7, and then it will also have some of the issues that are city specific. In Craighead County, we only have one city that has a ballot issue on this time, and that's Lake City, over in the Eastern District, and they're just voting on changing the way they structure their city council to where it's a staggered 4-year terms versus being elected every 2 years.
Okay.
Similar to what the city of Jonesboro does now, where there's 6 wards and one person elected in 2 years and then elected in their eventual year.
Okay. Alrighty, so where do we want to start?
I guess we start from the beginning. Issue 1.
Alright, so issue 1 deals basically with terms, elections, and eligibility of elected officials. The plain English way to look at it is it changes, for the most part, county officials such as the county clerk, my position, the circuit clerk, the county judge, the assessor, the tax collector, and the coroner. It changes those positions from every 2, like they are now, to actually being elected every 4 years.
Okay.
If this amendment passes, then it will actually go into effect starting in 2018 election cycle. So the people you're voting for now would still get a 2-year term if this passes, and then would run for a 4-year term in the 2018 cycle. It doesn't go into effect immediately.
Okay. So 2018.
Mm-hmm. And that's issue 1.
Yeah, and there's if you go on this website and look at it, you can kind of see more in detail of what supporters of the issue are saying about the 4-year terms. Like, one of the comments here is if county officials had 4-year terms, they could initiative some of their own ideas and see them through, especially when it comes to technology. Whereas some of the opponents to it are saying in general, people may think there is more accountability for county officials if you make them run every 2 years. So it looks at it from a very nonpartisan standpoint. It takes both into consideration, and it breaks it down pretty well, I believe, to understand. The one position that is here in the county that would not switch to 4-year terms, they would remain on 2-year terms, would be justices of the peace. And we have 13 of those here in Craighead County. Some places have 9, 11, 13, or 15. It just depends on the county and what the county decides they want to do.
And I'm looking at this information, and I see it has a section, how did this issue get on the ballot? That's good that information is going to that edge a little bit.
Yeah, the first 3 issues on the ballot, so issues 1, 2, and 3, all were referred from General Assembly. The General Assembly every 2 years vote to refer 3 ballot issues to the jail population. So this was the first one, and it was actually sponsored primarily by one of the representatives here in Kade County, Jack Ladyman. He serves kind of in the Bono and western Jonesboro area. So this was the first one that came up during the legislative session when they called a joint caucus, and this is that's the first ballot issue from the state.
And I'm looking also, it says, what does this amendment mean by civil office? Then it has under Section 3, allowing unopposed candidates to be elected without their names appearing on the ballot. Wow. It's very detailed. It's Section 4, defining infamous crime for term and eligibility to hold office. What does the Constitution currently say about those who can't hold office? How the infamous crime has been defined over the years? And why is a constitutional amendment needed if there's a law defining infamous crime? And it's, like I said, lots of good detailed information.
It is very detailed, and then there on the page 9 that you're looking at, that's actually the exact wording and how it will appear on the ballot. Okay. So you have all this text that explains it and kind of tells the theory about it and whatnot, but whenever you get into the actual polling place and you look at issue number 1, it'll just be a quick, short little paragraph. Basically, this just states that it's proposing an amendment to the Arkansas Constitution concerning the terms, election, and eligibility of elected officials.
And then also I noticed in the first pages, it says, what does it mean to vote? What does your mean for and against it? And then it breaks that down. If say you're for it, it tells you why, explains that. So. Correct.
And this is probably the most comprehensive guide that's put out. And a big shout out to the University of Arkansas Extension Office that deals with public policy, because they spend quite a bit of time, and a lot of attorneys go through and look at this and break it down. And rather than looking at 10 pages of legals, you can get a good plain English version that I know I prefer to not read 10 pages of legal stuff. So I enjoy it's nice to actually be able to just read and see plain English.
And has this always been available?
This has been available for a few years now, and it's a big initiative that they do, and we're happy to partner with them to make sure that this is available to anybody who wants to. We have printed copies of this available at the clerk's office, so you can just come by the office anytime, and we'll be happy to get it in your hand. Or if you want to go by the extension office, they have copies available there too. And then we'll be getting the link for y'all to put on y'all's Facebook and everything. And then I know as soon as they get us that condensed copy with everything ready to go, which will be that link we talked about earlier, that we'll go ahead and we'll be putting that out to everybody.
Well, I know there are several local organizations that are planning voter registration drives, such as some of the fraternities and sororities. I know Delta Sigma Theta and Alpha Kappa Alpha both are doing voter registration drives along with Kade County NAACP and the Black Business Association. So if anyone's listening from any of those organizations, definitely get with Mr. Holliday, grab a few copies of this so that you can pass the information out when you're doing those voter registrations, so that the people that you're getting registered to vote can have this information to make their choice when they go back. We are speaking with Kade County Clerk, Mr. Kade Holliday. We're talking about various initiatives on the ballot. So, as John McLaughlin would say, your turn.
Oh goodness.
And if you need anything with those voter registration drives or anything, we have all those available in the office. If you want to do one and you feel the initiative that you want to take care of that, you come by and see us anytime, and we'll get you everything you need, a number of voter applications, the rules for going through and actually getting people registered, important dates to remember, and everything. We're happy to help.
So, and what about the polling? Like, I have a list, was able to call your office and get an email list of the polling sites. Where can the citizens go to find the list of polling sites?
There will be a list of those actually put on my Facebook page here later today, and they will be available also on the Kade County website, which is county, and that's all spelled out, .org. The other way to look at that, and so you can actually see a sample ballot that you have, is to actually go to a website called Voter View. I have a direct link on that on Facebook as well as on the county website, and we'll kind of get that out to everyone else. And you can go onto that. You can put in your first and last name and your birthday, and it will pull up all your information, so you can ensure that you have the right address on register already. and it will tell you where your poll is going to be, and you can also download a copy of that ballot that you're going to get to vote on.
And I actually did that the other night, and it actually works. It's actually a pretty cool tool.
It is a neat little thing that the state allows us to do, and something not all counties utilize it, but I see a lot of people who actually do really want to be involved. I know that we've had several, I think we're getting close to 1,000 plus on people downloading their ballots already here in Craighead County, which that's a great thing.
So I tried to go to the voter view, and I'm getting page. Okay, never mind. I had to go to the mobile version. I'm sorry. Okay.
I was gonna say, yeah, if you go to it on cell phone, you do need to make sure you go to the mobile version, because if you try to launch the actual version, sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, and then also I found a link for the State of Arts, SOS, Secretary of State page. You can also find information there.
And you can click on that link to the Secretary of State's page, and you can use that to put in an application for us to send you an absentee ballot and things like that. It's really trying to make voting a lot more user friendly, especially in this digital age.
So everyone, no one has a reason not to vote or not to even get registered to vote this year. If you know someone that's elderly that can't get out, assist them in getting those absentee ballots or helping them get to the polls or just whatever they may need. So
absolutely, because this is a critical election year, and it will be there's lots of stuff from all the way from the presidential race all the way down to city council races here, and every one of those people need your considerations for you to determine which direction, which path you want the nation, the state, the county, and ultimately the city to head toward.
That's right.
All right, bringing it back to the issues, we have issue 2, allowing the governor to retain power and duty when absent from the state.
This one might seem like something that's kind of a given in today's world where, we have cell phones and airplanes and everything else, but the way it currently sits in state law, as soon as the governor exits the state, he loses his gubernatorial power, and lieutenant governor becomes the acting governor until he returns to the state orders.
Oh, wow.
So this would actually allow, Governor Hutchinson has been going on a lot of different trips, recognizing purposes and whatnot. This would actually allow him, whenever he does travel, to actually still maintain the powers of being the governor of the state across lines. The original law was done back in the 1800s, back when we were still on horse and buggy and
it wasn't like you had the internet to where you still be in constant communication with officials back in the state.
Absolutely. So this one's pretty straightforward, that it would allow the governor to maintain those powers when he leaves the state, or if you vote against it, that you would prefer that whenever he does leave the state, that the powers would remain in the state and the lieutenant governor would be the acting governor.
What would happen if the governor of the state and something happened to the lieutenant governor? Who would run the state then?
Well, at that point, to go into the line of succession, and I want to say the next person in line is the Secretary of State's office. I don't know. We've never had a situation where we let that far down the chain, so that'll be something I'll look up whenever we get done here.
That's
okay.
a good question.
All right. So, issue 3, job creation, job expansion, economic development.
Basically, one of the big projects that everyone hears about today in the news is Big River Steel. And you hear a lot about that and it being a super project. The state and
what's the super project?
They consider any project that's over $1 billion typically a super project. So this one actually came through, and the state helped fund parts of it through an Amendment 82 bond. So since it was a large economic development project, the state decided that it would have a large economic windfall for the area, which it very well should if everything comes out true. And basically what issue number 3 is, in Amendment 82, it does set a limit that there's a 5% cap on bonds issued by the state tied to general revenues. And if you voted for Amendment number 3, you would be allowing the state to go above that 5% cap. Now, any of those bond issues do have to be voted on by the state legislature, so you would assume that the state legislature would also give heed to the fact that you don't want to issue too many liabilities if you don't have the assets to back them up. So it would still be on the state legislature to approve any of these bond issues. It couldn't just be done out of the blue. But if you voted for this, it would allow the state to exceed that 5% cap and above and beyond that in issuing things if the state legislature approved them. And if you voted against it, you are for maintaining that 5% cap and not going above and beyond that.
Okay. For those, just for myself, can you please explain what a bond means?
So basically what we would do if we were going to issue a bond is if we went through and we needed to borrow, let's just say, $60 billion. Something.
Okay.
The state could issue a bond or have a bonding company issue a bond where people would loan the state that amount of money with a guaranteed amount of interest paid, and we try to make sure that our payments on that bond issue are not going to be above 5. All bonds issued for the whole state could not, the payments per year on those could not exceed 5% of general revenues. That's basically where that comes from. Because, I mean, some of these super projects, when we talk about, oh, well, it's going to be $1 billion, that might be a $1 billion payment per year for 30 years on a $25 billion bond issue. So, talking about large sums of money.
No one wants to be responsible.
And it's kind of interesting you mentioned that because, you know, and it's come out in the news that Frito-Lay is seeking, you know, bonds to expand right here in Jonesboro.
Absolutely, and you know, a lot of businesses, larger businesses, will look at bonds to do something along those lines, where they'll use their revenues to guarantee those bonds that they get paid. In a lot of ways, it's similar in some ways to like whenever an individual goes to a bank and gets a loan for a house or whatnot. But this one ties it in a little bit differently with rules and regulations.
Okay, I got you. Alrighty, so there's a lot of information that's valuable in this. I would really recommend people to read over that so they know exactly what they're voting for.
And you know, it does go through in each one of these issues, and you know, some of them have a lot more text than the other ones, which we're getting to the huge text ones here in just a little bit. Yes. But it's very, very clear exactly what it would do in every single class, and it does give you a good look at what the pros and the cons of each side would be and what advocates for and advocates against each matter are saying, which it's a good thing, I think, overall. It's a way to look at everything, especially you don't want to go, there's 7 of these issues, and you don't just want to go in there and hit 4 on all of them or against on all of them. Each one of them, you know, definitely take into consideration what you think would be the best direction for the state and things you want to see happen, because these issues have long-lasting effects.
Yes. If you need some light reading for a night, pick up a copy.
There's a couple more sections of this bond one. Section 4 allows state legislatures to authorize the use of other taxes beyond special taxes to pay off municipal and county bonds. Section 5 says remove requirement that municipal and county bonds may be sold only at public sale. Let's talk about that just for a little bit.
You know, as of right now, Amendment 62, which allows counties and cities to use taxes to pay off bond debt, Section 5 talking about how it removes the requirement that municipal and county bonds may only be sold at public sale. As of right now, they have to be sold at a public sale. They have to be advertised and everything else. But this would actually allow the counties and the cities, if they chose to, rather than to do their bonds through, let's just say, a public sale at the courthouse or a public auction site or something. If a private individual said, no, I'd like to buy 100% of those bonds, that they could come in and make a deal with that individual privately to be able to just issue all these bonds to that one individual, and they could purchase them. You see some of that with schools and things now, but typically that goes through it goes through a brokering agency. This just makes where that brokering agency, if they knew someone would like to privately purchase that or in a large sum of it, rather than it have to go to a public sale, could just do that outright.
Okay. Now, people say, where are my taxes going? Can they request a report of some kind so they can get access to this?
Absolutely. As far as I know, here in Craighead County, we don't have any bonds issued at all. We are a completely free county, which is a good thing. But typically all that is public record, and all those records would be kept with the clerk of the county or the clerk of the city, and they can contact those individuals and get kind of a good record of all those things.
So do you think it's also beneficial for people that don't want to vote for tax increases on certain things? They knew where the money was really going and how beneficial it was they might have a change of mind or heart.
I think so. That's one of the things I'm always a large advocate for. Make sure the public is well informed of anything, rather than just saying, "Hey, we would like to do a blanket tax. Please vote us."
Okay.
Actually saying, hey, we would like a 1 cent sales tax, and 40% of it's going to be for this, and 20% is going to be used for that. Whether it be 40% for the roads, 20% for general operations that ties to and tie every cent of it all the way. That way, you know exactly where it's going.
All right.
And we're speaking with Craig County Clerk Kade Holliday, talking about all of the initiatives on the ballot. Phone lines are open if you have a call or a question for Mr. Holliday. 870-277-1080. Once again, it's 870-277-1080. We'll be back. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Moms, are you equipped to raise your son well? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. From an early age, we can recognize the innate differences between our sons and daughters. But it's even more important to understand how to handle those differences and uniquely parent your boys well. Part of our job as parents is to turn our rambunctious young sons into respectful, mature men. So here are several principles for raising boys well. First, channel their energy. Instead of constantly telling your son to settle down, teach him to energy into something productive. Second, protect his spirit. Keep your eyes open for things that wound his spirit, like bullies or violence in the media. Always be a source of security. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
Hello, Officer Jonathan Hagens of the Jonesboro Police Department. One of the best decisions I ever made was to join the Jonesboro Police Department. Since joining, I've had the pleasure to give back, protect, to my community. I want you know about that same opportunity. The Jonesboro Police Department will conduct testing for the patrol officers at the Valley View High School. Applications are available online at jonesboropolice.com or at the department located at 1001 South Caraway Road. The Jonesboro Police Department offers a competitive salary, health, and retirement benefits, top-of-the-line training, and most importantly, the chance to make the Jonesboro community. Join me in making Jonesboro a better place. The Jonesboro Police Department is an equal opportunity employer, and women and minorities are especially encouraged to apply. More information, 870-935-5657.
Testing is Saturday, September 17th. Applications are due no later than September 15th at 5:00 p.m. New St. John Missionary Baptist Church Pastor's Aid Committee presents a fish fry fundraiser Sunday, October 9th. The church located at 308 North Main Street in Jonesboro. The time is 1:00 p.m. The deadline to pre-order plates is September 24th. The plates include 3 pieces of fish, choice of 2 sides, dessert, and drink. More information is available at the church at 870-932-6915.
Lame excuses and other forms of voter apathy have no place in American democracy. Show that you care, do your duty, and go vote. This is a reminder from Cheryl Underwood Radio.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK with our special guest, Mr. Kade Holliday, the Craighead County Clerk, talking about the initiatives that are on this November ballot. So let's go ahead and get into issue 4, medical injury lawsuit laws.
Yeah, this one's really kind of an interesting deal. It's
on page 19, Kabila.
The general gist of it is it sets a cap on contingency fees gathered by attorneys of 33 1/3%. Because currently, right now, there is no cap on that. But it also changes things to where the state legislature has the ability to put a cap on the maximum amount of money that an person would receive for non-economic damages. It is a floor on that maximum limit that it could not be less than $250,000. This one's actually been challenged in court currently, so there should be a ruling on whether the constitutionality of it actually stands before we vote on it, because if it is found that it would violate the Constitution in other ways, that it may end up being thrown out. 2 years ago, there was 2 casino amendments actually on the ballot, and both of those were ruled by the court to not be eligible for the ballot, and both were thrown out. Now, they still appeared on the ballot because it's after certification time, but the votes were not reported and they didn't count. So that may be a situation that happens here. I would still suggest people kind of take a look at this and see what they think on it. It's a pretty in-depth thing. It would be a huge change to the law as it sits now. I mean, you know, some of the supporters from it are saying that caps on non-economic damages can help lower the cost of liability insurance for nursing homes, which can result in lower costs for Medicaid, whereas opponents to it are saying it basically is the value of a life at $250,000 if there are no economic damages.
Now, when you said no economic damages, what do you mean?
That's a real question whenever it comes to this. It's not just extremely well defined whenever it does about economic damages. My general understanding of it is that right here, the phrase non-economic damage is defined in the amendment. However, in general, the phrase refers to the amount of money paid to compensate a person for the pain, suffering, inconvenience, or loss of quality of life that occurs because of injury. Those losses are separate from a person's lost income and medical expenses, which is similar to what I was going to say, but they said it in a whole more well-rounded way than what I would have said. So,
all right. And you mentioned that this law is being challenged, and that in past that there were some casino amendments that were challenged that were thrown out, but they're back on the ballot. So with that, we're going to transition into issue 5, authorizing 3 casinos.
And you know, this one was also being challenged in court, and the Supreme Court is required to make sure that they have a ruling on this one way or the other before the election day. So we will know something, and when we do, we'll definitely get that information passed on. But this issue number 5 authorizes 3 casinos to operate in Boone County, Miller County, and Washington County. Those are all border states that kind of have casinos operating right on their side, so this is kind of a way, in their opinion, to try to keep that money inside the state of Arkansas and keep the tax money here. Unless one of the quick quotes here that supporters are saying, unless voters pass this amendment, money of these casino jobs will continue to go to neighboring states, and their citizens, not ours, will benefit from hundreds of millions of dollars in annual gaming tax revenue in the form of new roads, better schools, and lower taxes. But opponents to it are saying casinos don't lift the economy, and the tax benefit is very small relative to the state budget.
I'm sure there are a lot more opponent statements. The same things we faced when the lottery came to the state. So it's like you're going to always have those people that are way for the way.
Absolutely. It is a very interesting thing. There are already 2 casinos operating in the state. In West Memphis, you have Salin Park, and then in Hot Springs, you have Oaklawn. So this would authorize additional casinos to operate in those border counties. And I know that there are other opponents to this that are arguing that maybe this should be a statewide look rather than just at a county-specific issue, or why is the state voting on a county-specific issue whenever I don't live in Boone, Miller, or Washington counties. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, all those are some of the arguments that are being made in this court case that's being heard, so it'll be interesting to see how all that pans out.
I know I was looking for the question here, but are these counties dry or wet counties?
I want to say that Washington is a wet county. Boone is I think they just voted themselves wet, and Miller, I believe, is a wet county. Okay. I don't know right off the bat. Hold on, maybe I can look it up super quick.
Oh, well, I was just wondering if that's also a concern of why people may not want these casinos, because that has been an issue in Jonesboro when it comes to getting certain restaurants that have to file for a private club.
Yeah, it is.
File as a private club.
I'm not sure, and not to mention, since you do have that process that you can apply, kind of like it is here in Jonesboro with some of the wet-dry issue here. That was a big topic 2 years ago. But you can still apply for a liquor license inside the county to distribute at a restaurant. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these counties is dry that they wouldn't be able to do the exact same as here.
All right, and that takes us to issues 6 and 7, which we probably will spend a lot of time on because both of these deal with the legalization for medical purposes of marijuana. And one says marijuana and one says cannabis, and I'll just let Mr. Holliday take over.
One of the biggest things that gets asked all the time regarding the medical marijuana versus medical cannabis is, what is the difference between an act and a constitutional amendment? An act is a state law which can be changed at a later date by a state senator and representative in a legislative session. Any changes by the legislature to an act passed by the public would not require another vote of the people. A constitutional amendment amends the state's constitution and typically can't be changed without another vote of the people. Some constitutional amendments can include for legislators to make certain changes at a later date that wouldn't require a vote, but would not repeal the entire amendment. If you look at these, issue number 6, which is the medical marijuana amendment, would actually be an amendment that the state legislature may have some ability to go in and change later on, but could not completely reverse. Issue number 7, which is the Medical Cannabis Act, could actually come through and be changed at a later date by state senators and representatives. The next question that I'll ask is, what happens if both actually pass? So they have a good definition of this, which is just in Arkansas, ballot issues require a majority of the votes cast to be approved. Article 5 of the Arkansas Constitution says if conflicting measures are approved, the one receiving the highest number of 4 votes will become law. However, supporters have questioned whether the Constitutional Amendment would take precedence over a state law. The determination that would happen if both proposals passed would likely be made by the courts. So, even if both of the issues did pass, one may be the clear winner in the 4 column, but then we will have the question of, does a constitutional amendment supersede an act? So that would be up to the courts to determine.
I imagine it would probably go up to the state Supreme Court to decide it.
It would go immediately to the Supreme Court. They wouldn't even, there would be no waste of time there. And I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't have a ruling on that by the end of the year, because most of these are where they would take effect beginning January 1 of 2017. Inside this little booklet, it kind of goes through and it actually shows what the big differences between 6 and 7 are. A lot of people think that they're the exact same, and they are not. And I think advocates for either one of those would make sure and want everyone to know that they are not the same in any way, shape, or form. There are different provisions on both of these. Like, you can, if you look at this and get this put on my website, I'm sure that KLEK will be happy to do that here as well, because this is definitely something that we want to make sure people understand and know. There's a lot of different that happen with both of these, with dealing with provisions for patients to grow their own versus only being able to grow your own, or not being able to grow your own, depending on where you live. It's a very complex law. Like issue number 6, there's no provision for individuals to grow their own marijuana, and in issue 7, there is provisions for individuals who live more than 20 miles from a dispensary that they could grow a limited number of plants themselves. It's very, very interesting. Issue 6 specifies 17 qualified patient conditions, whereas issue 7 specifies 56. So, and some of those specifications are actually laid out, and what they could, what they couldn't do, what would be allowed and what would not be allowed. So it's a very, very interesting situation we have with these two, and definitely make sure you take time to look at this, because this does kind of lay out the major differences that we're we're ratified in public policy study of these two amendments to consider if you are considering voting for one or the other or for both. Make sure you do make a very well qualified decision on which one you believe is the right way for the state moving forward.
I will say
And of course, both of them are challenged in court.
Correct. most of those amendments, with the exception of some of the state referred ones, get challenged in court, and sometimes the state ones will actually get challenged in court too. Amendment number 3, there's talk of a challenge in court about it, but it hasn't came to fruition yet. So, but issues 1 and 2, there are no challenges. So those are the only 2 that we know right now that do not have any opposition.
So that will qualify them. Would it? No.
If they had a felony 20 years ago under issue 6, my understanding would be that they would, and everything had been satisfied from that felony, that they would be okay. And then under issue 7, not sure whether or not if everything has been satisfied and if that's an expunged or anything, if that would still disqualify that person or not. There's, that's one thing that was not considered in this that I do think needs to be made a little bit clearer. There may be advocates for issue number 7 that could really go through and explain that to us in more depth.
Yes. So.
Once speaking with Craighead County Clerk Holliday about the different ballot initiatives that will be on the ballot this November, and if you have a question or a call about any of them, you can call us up at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. Looking at this comparison chart of issue 6 and issues, I see something that may be of interest to the college students. Issue 6 says prohibits the use of medical marijuana on college campuses.
Wow.
Issue 7 says there is no provision prohibiting the use of medical marijuana on college campuses. I imagine even if either one of these passed, that colleges would still probably have their own rules about use on campus.
Yeah, I think that there will be some additional rules that will be passed depending upon the different things that happen, especially when it comes to the use on college campuses. The interesting issue going to be, though, is can you truly put restrictions, rules, and regulations on someone's health that's been approved and everything? So there's some definite issues when it comes to the government side of it and to the business side of it that aren't extremely well defined, but I figure that we'll probably have guidance on that here in the next, if it passes shortly thereafter. I know it's one topic that has came up in the past when it comes to this, so definitely make sure that you take a look at this. But I mean, this is a pretty good little chart, and even if you only read the last, I want to say this is like the last 30 pages, that's the bulk majority of the whole, but it really is a interesting issue. Yeah, it's the last right at 20 pages deals with this medical marijuana and medical cannabis. So these are probably 2 of the issues that get brought up the most, and trying to understand exactly where they come and all that. And then in this booklet too, if you print off the last 2 pages, that kind of gives you a ballot issue worksheet where you can just kind of go ahead and plan whether you're for or against these things.
Yes.
You can always bring notes into the poll.
Oh, you can.
You can bring notes.
Oh, thank you.
So if you want to bring your notes in, the only thing is you can't share everybody there. So you can share outside all you want, but you cannot share inside. That's electioneering. That's a violation of state law. Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Okay. So no going into anyone else's little...
No, don't go in anyone else's cubicle and try to sway the vote.
Okay.
Now, speaking of electioneering, one thing that you'll notice, I know I've noticed this, like, I always do early voting, and like when I go up to the election annex, right across the street, you'll see the candidates and their supporters across the street with all of their signs, and they'll wave and honk at people who go into the annex to cast their votes. What are the rules on that?
The current rules are anyone who has election material or like a political affiliated shirt or something along those lines has to be outside of 100 feet from the entrances to the annex. So if you take measuring tape and measure 100 feet out, we actually have a little wheel thing that you can just sit there and roll, and it tells you where 100 foot is. It actually ends up being right in the middle of Jefferson Street. So that's why most everybody will go over there and stand on that sidewalk to hold their signs. That way they are outside of the area. They don't have to worry about having a problem or any coming in and saying, hey, you're electioneering, you got to get off this property. So we try to measure it out and try to label it for everybody, and we also try to do the same thing at some of the polls too, because you would be amazed at how many questions and complaints and things like that get registered every year with the election commission. And well, somebody in the 100-foot boundary. So we try to make that a well-defined area and make sure that we police it as well as we can, because it is under state law. You are not supposed to have any of that stuff within 100 foot. You're not supposed to call at anybody whenever they're in. Hey, make sure to remember to vote for me and anything like that. So if you want to go across the street and visit folks beforehand, there'll probably be about, I'd say 20 or 30 candidates over there every single day waving and holding signs, and they'll be happy to tell you why you should vote for them. And definitely do that. I would assume that we'll probably have a few individuals with the medical cannabis and the medical marijuana acts that'll be there too, trying to switch one way or the other on those.
Okay, so you said there's usually someone there every day. About what time would you say what they kind of?
I'm assuming all day.
Most people are out there all day. I can tell you the last 2 times that I was running for office, I stayed out there from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I left to maybe go get me a hamburger real quick at McDonald's, and I'd come right back.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So and there's a great, and even sometimes it may not be the candidate necessarily, but one of their supporters, and they can kind of tell you where that candidate stands on certain things and issues all the way down the ballot. So it's definitely something to it doesn't hurt to walk across the street and just say hello, and I guarantee you everybody over there get to say hello right before you get here. And
well, I know when I go, because people know me, KLEK, when they see me, they'll like throw their hands up and wave at me, and I give them a thumbs up and
absolutely
go and cast my vote.
Yeah, and most of these candidates have Facebook pages with ways to contact them and everything. If you have a specific question, reach out to them. Most of them are absolutely happy to do that. I mean, I get messages on my Facebook page all the time with people asking about particulars about something or how they can get a hold of someone, and we're happy to get you in contact with these people. Most of them will talk to them. That's what they want. I mean, for me personally, that's what I enjoy about my job. I enjoy getting to come out, do things like this, get to kind of inform people about different things. And I appreciate y'all for everything you do on trying to get the word out on all these issues and to talk with all these candidates, because it is important for people to know all the way up ticket and down ticket what's going on, because it does ultimately determine the direction of our city all the way up to our nation.
And we certainly appreciate you coming in. We appreciate giving these interviews, and like you said, the social media has become quite the tool. We've booked several of these interviews just by going on these candidates' Facebook pages and saying, would you like to come on Community Conversations and talk about your campaign? So it's definitely been interesting. Speaking with Craighead County Clerk Kade Holliday, this is Community Conversations.
You're listening to Community Conversation, KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. An astounding 7 in 10 prepaid cards are not fully disclosing their fees to consumers, according to new research from creditcards.com. The study reviewed the fees printed on the packaging of 10 widely available pay cards sold at big retailers, drugstores, and payday lenders. Only 3 of the 10 cards analyzed met the proposed disclosure guidelines set forth by the U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Payday lenders, Cash Express, Speedy Cash were the biggest offenders in terms of not disclosing fees. In fact, their cards were offered without any fee disclosures unless specifically requested. Knowing the details of cards' fee structures can make a big difference in terms of monthly expense, the real cost of using the card. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Attention members and guests. Kelly K 102.5 FM and Legends 1025 presents the 8th After Party for Grown Falls. It's going down after every Arkansas State home football game this season at Legends 1025, 1025 West Johnson Avenue in front of Riceland Foods. Admissions at just $5. 21 and up to enter. Live broadcast of KLEK 102.5 FM. Music by DJ Sharkzilla. Hosted by Mr. Chew. Let's cheer on the Arkansas State Red Wolves to victory. And then celebrate after each home game in Legends 1025. These events are KLEK fundraisers.
The first 30 days get it free.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers, Fullness of Joy Church, 3307 Ray Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401.
The key our representative form of American democracy is the right to vote. When you cast ballot on Election Day, you make America stronger. Now is the time to register. Election Day will soon be here. Do your part and vote. This is a reminder from Cheryl Underwood Radio.
KLEK Community Calendar. The North Point Church of Christ will host a food giveaway for families in need every third Saturday from 8 o'clock a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. The address to the church is 5 Pepper Drive in Jonesboro. In addition, conduct a Bible study Thursdays with bread lunches given away. More information is available at 870-530-1542.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back to Community Conversations on KLEK with our guest, Mr. Kade Holliday, the Craig County Clerk. We are talking about the Arkansas ballot issues on this November's ballot. There are 7 of them. And once again, Mr. Holliday, just kind of let the listeners know we've been going through this guide, but if they're just tuning in, let them know where they can get this guide, where they can see it online, where they can pick up hard copies so that they can read about the issues and just kind of explain some of the stuff that they have, because it's valuable information that's in this guide.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a 2.5 minute breakdown. I'm going to go through the whole thing.
Okay.
All right. On my mark, get set, go. So to get this entire guide, go to www.uaex.edu/ballot, BALLOT. And you'll be able to download this as well as any local issues that are happening. I only have one of those here in Craighead County. That's Lake City, and they're going to take their stuff to staff 4-year terms versus every year, which is an ability that first and second class cities have as long as they refer it to their people. There'll also be a link to all this on my Facebook page, as well as I believe they put that on the KLEK page as well. And you'll also have a link there that you can pull up a sample ballot by putting in your information, and you can make sure that all your information is correct. If it's not, or for some reason you have trouble accessing that, call my office at 870-933.
You almost gave away the sale.
4520. You can call my phone too at 870-530-2323 anytime you have a question or anything like that. I just about got messed up with all my numbers here trying to get in my 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Well, you got net. I mean, you got out 8 minutes actually, so you can.
Oh, I know, but I like to try to do it on that quick. So basically, what ends up happening with this is there are 7 ballot issues. 3 of them we know are not being challenged in court. The other 4 are. There should be rulings on whether or not they will be on the ballot come probably a few weeks before early voting starts, which, early voting is coming up quick, October 25th. Make sure you are registered to vote by October 10th. Call my office or check online to make sure everything's right. And if it's not, right now is the time that you can still make changes. We still have a little time before that. All right. Issue number 1 deals with the terms and election of eligibility of elected officials or of elected officials. Basically, that changes some of the county requirements from 2-year terms to 4-year terms, with the exceptions of justices of the peace, and that would take effect in the elections in 2018. Issue number 2 deals with allowing the governor to retain his power and duties whenever he is absent from the state. The law that's on the books now done way back in the 1800s, whenever it was horse and buggy, and the governor might ride off into the sunset and we'll never see him again. So, but in the day's day, with the age and technology, with cell phones and internet and Facebook and Skype and everything else, it's pretty easy to get a hold of somebody and make sure that they have contact with the officials here that can take care of everything. So that one, a yes vote would actually allow him to retain his ability, and no vote would be keeping things as it is. When he leaves the state boundaries, the lieutenant governor becomes the governor. Issue number 3 to deal with removing the 5% cap on bond issues of the state that could be used for job creation, job expansion, and economic development. All those bond issues that still had to be voted on by the legislature, but at the end of the day, it will depend on whether you want to have that constitutional cap of 5% still there that they cannot exceed currently, or if you want to put your faith in your legislators that they're going to make the right economic and good decisions to not do anything that would cause an economic windfall for the state in any way, shape, or form. Issue number 4 deals with medical injury lawsuits and basically sets a minimum on the maximum, if that makes sense, of $250,000 that can be received for non-economic damages, but basically puts it into the hands of the legislature to set what that maximum could be if they choose to. Issue number 5 authorizes the use and operation of 3 casinos in some of the borders counties, Washington, Boone, and Miller, and it will be a statewide thing to determine whether the casino should be allowed in those 3 counties or not. That's kind of where that one sits. And then 6 and 7, which are the big issues that a lot of people are talking about. Issue 6 is the medical marijuana amendment. Issue 7 is the medical cannabis act. Both of those are very some way similar and in other ways very much different. And in this guide, there's a pretty good breakdown of what the fors and against on both of those are, and a good comparison and contrastion. So I think I did it pretty quick there. Maybe not 2.5 minutes, but as close as I could be.
Well, it's all right, because now we have 2.5 minutes before the show ends. And so one thing that I just kind of wanted you to remind listeners about, if you are a felon and you have gotten all your business taken care of, what you need to do to get your voting rights restored.
Yes, make sure if you are a felon and you've done everything, you fulfilled your sentence, make sure you go talk with the circuit clerk and make sure that she gives you, or her office issues you, the correct paper so we can go ahead and get you re-registered to vote. And you have till October the 10th, just like anybody else, to make sure all that is taken care of so we can get you re-registered and you're good for November. If you happen to have just moved to Craighead County and you are already registered, let's just say you lived in Phillips County and you just moved here to Craighead and you want to move your registration, the line's just a little bit different. You have a little bit more time. You just have to move it 4 days before the election, which ends up being Friday, November. Give me a second so I'll give you the right day. But it's Friday, November the 4th. Yep. So make sure you call our office at 870-933-4520, and we will be more than happy to make sure that everything's done. And if there's something we can assist you with, we'll be happy to put you in contact. If it's something we can't take care of, reach out to me on Facebook at Craighead County Clerk Kade Holliday. I normally answer them pretty quickly. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time depending on what's going on, but I try to answer them as fast as I can. And it's always a pleasure to be here and to serve the people. And I appreciate everything that y'all do here at KLEK to help get the information out to the people. And it's a great benefit and it's a great asset that we have here in this community.
Well, I really thank you and your office for being so supportive. Every time I call, I just feel like where I am from, and they like, okay, I'll send your email. So I really thank you all for helping us out.
No problem at all. We're happy to be here to serve.
All right, election day is November 8th. No excuses. Get out and vote. We're not going to tell you who to vote for, but read up on the issues, find out how you feel on the issues, then step into that ballot booth and make your choice known. Thank you all for listening. God bless each and every one of you. This is Community Conversations. And you KLEK 102.5 FM.